Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our Jones in Insurance iTOOsday today. So we'll be unpacking the topic of what the UK and the SA claims data reveal about future risks today. And just to get the formalities out, I will introduce our speaker. Our speaker is Laura Vivier from McLaren's, who's a technical support and a loss adjuster. She will be presenting the key trends observed in Jones claims. She'll unpack how these insights can support more informed underwriting, strengthen risk mitigation strategies, and guide the future of drone insurance with a special focus on relevance to the South African market. Thanks a lot, Laura, for joining us today. I am actually as excited as for our conversation to unpack the differences between the two markets from a drone perspective, because with a whole lot of things, there's similarities in terms of airspace usages. And the interesting part more about it is where the UK market is from a regulation perspective and the conversations we're having in South Africa from a regulation perspective. And it's so exciting to see how this drone industry is evolving from strength to strength, dating back from when the regulations in South Africa were promulgated in 2015 to where we are. And just to add, yes, the regulations in South Africa, we have been snail paced. But I think just to speak from an insurer perspective and regulator, it's always nice to start slowly and understand the industry which we are evolving into and getting excited into before we open it up to just anyone to operate in. So without holding Laura back, because I think she's got a really interesting presentation to unpack with us, I will hand over to her. And I never introduced myself. I am Kopano Tolo, the drone underwriting expert, which sits here in iTOO. So for all your drone requests, they do come through to me, and I'm happy to assist anytime you guys would want. But enough about me. Over to you, Laura.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone who is joining us today. Let me share my screen and let's get started. Sorry, just some technical difficulties there.
All good. I'll give you a heads up. The presentation is also up.
Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so as discussed, we're going to have a look today. Is it up on your side? Pops?
Yes, it's up. It's up. It's up.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we're going to have a look today at what the UK and South African drone claims data is revealing about future risk, and then we're just going to have a look at the drone market in general as well. So the agenda today, we're going to have a look at drone applications, the UK drone market, as explained, the South African drone market, advanced air mobility, the AAM, which is the advanced air mobility emerging risk categories. We're going to have a look at claims data from our experience and what we have noticed, the key findings from that data, and then also future risks. So in terms of drone applications, agriculture is quite a large sector. It's used for crop monitoring, precision spraying, soil analysis, and various other applications. The benefits of which include increased efficiency, reduced risk and versus ground crews, and then better yields. Public safety and emergency services, so drones used for search and rescue, disaster response, law enforcement, surveillance, and many more. And then the benefits, again, being real-time situational awareness, access to danger zones, and then lives saved more quickly and efficiently. Construction and infrastructure, so inspection of bridges, power lines, buildings, map and survey construction sites. And then here we can just see an inspection taking place, the benefits of which also include it avoids personal risks, it speeds up site visits, and it's often much more cost effective. So there's a reduction in cost for the clients. Environmental and scientific, so to use for monitoring of wildlife, detect and monitor natural disasters, map air and water quality, map ecosystems, and then again, various other uses in the environmental and scientific sector. And then the benefits is providing high solution, low cost aerial data for these specific tasks, deforestation tracking, and then again, the mapping of ecosystems. So the benefits that we're mentioning are just some, but of course, depending on exactly what the drone is going to be used for, there's obviously going to be additional and other benefits as well. Media and photography, so aerial images, videos for real estate, events and film. And then the benefits including unique dynamic perspective. It's also, again, much more cost effective than using, for example, helicopters and cranes. Right, delivery, so the transport of small goods, medical supplies to remote areas. And again, the benefits having faster remote area reach and logistical advantages. And then military and security, so border control, surveillance, data gathering, and then again, the benefits being persistent remote monitoring without risking personnel. And this is also where we are seeing an increase in the use of eVTOL and fixed-wing drones, specifically in this military and security space for surveillance. Right, so having a look at the UK drone market. According to an article published by Horace Drones, there's over 200,000 registered drones in operation across the UK currently, with over 100,000 licensed drone pilots being actively certified. According to Grand View Research, the commercial drone market revenue for the UK alone was $980.5 million in 2024. It's expected to reach $1.5 billion by 2030, which represents a compound annual growth rate of 7.4% from 2025 to 2030. From this, the rotary wing drones generated the largest revenue in 2024, with hybrid drones being the fastest growing segment. Right, so from what I've just mentioned, here's also a graph where we can see the growth from 2018 to 2030. As mentioned, this was Grand View Research that has done this research across the market. So again, the revenue only for the commercial UK market was $980.5 million, forecasted to nearly $1.5 billion by 2030, which is crazy because we're already at the end of 2025. And then again, the CAGR of 7.4%. Markets. So again, according to Grand View Research, the South African commercial drone market generated $393.2 million in 2024, and it's expected to reach $655.3 million by 2030, which represents the CAGR of 8.5% from 2025 to 2030. Also, same as with the UK, the rotary wing drones were the largest revenue generating segment. And again, same as with the UK, the hybrid drones are also projected to be the fastest growing segment through 2030. Here's again just a graph to show the growth for the South African commercial drone market from between 2018 and 2030. The revenue for 2024 being $393.2 million, forecasted to $655.3 million, and then again the CAGR of 8.5%, which is higher. Our compound annual growth rate is higher than that currently forecasted for the UK. All right, so according to a CASA newsletter from April 2025, over 120,000 drones were estimated to have entered South Africa to date, the to date being April 2025. From this, approximately 3,000 drones were registered commercially via the RLA. And then the import and export data is available post-2020, which shows rapid expansion in the drone circulation. The under 7 kilogram category was found to remain dominant. Larger drones from between 7 and 150 kilograms showed an import upstick in 2024. And then export lags imports, except what was categorized as other, where local assembly or re-export was found to be emerging. And then the SARS data showed that approximately 50,000 to 60,000 drones are in active circulation, most under 7 kilograms. And as mentioned, this was from the CASA newsletter dated April 2025. All right, so here we go. Let's get into advanced air mobility, which is a hot topic at the moment. And I'm sure that many of you have seen all the articles and newsletters that have come out regarding this topic and air taxis and carrying of passengers, etc. So the definition of advanced air mobility refers to the integration of electric vertical takeoff and landing, so eVTOL, aircraft and larger drone systems into controlled airspace for cargo, logistics, and passenger transport. Right, we're just quickly going to have a look at a video from Vertical Aerospace regarding one of their advanced air mobility drones. All right, so advanced air mobility is increasing at a high rate due to urban congestion, sustainability goals for specifically, obviously, that sustainability will come with the electric propulsion, smart city investments and digital airspace management, And then some companies which are manufacturing these eVTOL drones, specifically looking at advanced air mobility, include Airbus, Joby, Archer, Lilium, EHang, Volocopter, and Vertical Aerospace. So what are the new and emerging risk categories for advanced air mobility? So firstly, having a look at airframe and operational risks. So physical damage, battery failure, or power system malfunction. Increased exposure to electric propulsion and composite material repair costs. And then the passenger and cargo liability aspect, which is passenger injury, cargo loss, third-party property damage, and then complex liability change from manufacturer, operator, software provider, and then air traffic service, and then cyber and data risk. Connectivity and automation plays a large role in eVTOL. So with that, obviously, comes the risk regarding the loss of connectivity and automation, and then the risk of hacking, GPS spoofing, or AI navigation failure. Infrastructure and ground risk, so vertiports, charging stations, maintenance depots, which would require bespoke property and liability covers. And then, of course, in terms of vertiports as well, having a look at the damage that could be potentially caused to those vertiports. And then regulatory coordination. So this is going to be very important when it comes to the stage of cross-border advanced air mobility. So there's going to have to be harmonized frameworks allowing those crosses of border between the countries in terms of advanced air mobility. So getting into claims. So what we have seen from our side, handling a number of claims, the largest cause of loss for drone claims remains pilot error. And this is due to sometimes the selecting of incorrect flight modes, just not focusing on the correct way to approach an emergency situation, and various other reasons for pilot error, flying into trees, putting off obstacle avoidance, and so forth. And then another large cause of loss, unfortunately, remains unknown. And the unknown, as indicated in our graph, could be due to a number of reasons. Sometimes we are unable to obtain additional data to determine an exact cause of loss. So then it becomes a question and a sort of, a guesstimate of writing to underwriters and for ourselves as well to say, look, there isn't sufficient data, or we can't determine from the actual wreckage what happened, but it could have been a bird strike, but it could also have been a propeller breaking off during flight, or it could have also been a wind gust. So unfortunately, sometimes we do still have those unknowns. And then again, we've also had instances where the flight data has been unrecoverable and where analysis was actually not possible. So now the only thing you can rely on is sort of the remote pilot's incident reports, which obviously then it becomes difficult to say, okay, this is what we have, but we cannot confirm it via the data available. And then we've also seen just some ground incidents, few malfunctions, few battery failures during flight or depleted batteries, some pitch roll, signal loss and communication errors, blocked pitot tubes, some component failures, and then again collisions with other objects, weather, and then also some claims were found to have combined cause of losses. So, for example, there might have been a warning on the drone, and it might have been a pitch roll instability, but the operator selected the incorrect mode. And then, of course, we've now got a combination of two factors. Right. So just a quick YouTube clip regarding drones and aircraft.
Or there's no sound.
Is there no sound?
Yes.
Okay, let me just quickly go on here. Just tell me if there's sound.
Yes.
Good.
It happened just this afternoon, a very close call between a drone and an airliner on approach to New York's Kennedy Airport with 159 people on board. It happened in the most critical phase of the flight, the plane low, traveling around 190 miles an hour, setting up to land when the drone appeared just 100 feet away.
All right, so quite interesting to see just what a small drone can do to an aircraft wing, the near misses. So, of course, in terms of claims and also when advanced air mobility comes into play, it's going to be much more heavily regulated in terms of commercial operations and specifically the operations in controlled airspace so that it remains safe for all parties involved. So what are we seeing from the drone claim data that we have and claims that we have handled? Point number one, there's been both in the UK and South Africa a rise in claim frequency, and this is due to the increase in the market and the increase of drone applications in various sectors. So again, with that and the increase in the market, there's also emerging manufacturers, there's new manufacturers that are coming up, and then this increases the claims in terms of prototype trials, testing of those platforms, and then of course, it then becomes a issue if something goes wrong with those prototypes and we need to determine exactly what happened. So it's difficult sometimes when the manufacturer is also the only repairer and also the only person that can sometimes review the flight data. Again, as explained previously, pilot error still remains the dominant cause of loss. And this indicates the need for ongoing training, recurrence training, proper certification. And that's why it's so important to have insurers who offer coverage for that recurrent training, which can obviously then play a big role in risk mitigation. So the South Africa repair and supply chain constraints due to limited local repairers and then the limited repair capability and then spare part shortages. So this results in oftentimes we have to send these drones and or payloads to the manufacturer or to other authorized repairers, which can take a lot of time. And then we're also sitting with increased claim costs due to increased shipping costs. And then again, also the timeline of the claim increases quite significantly due to the shipping that might take long, the repairer or the manufacturer also having a backlog of drones and equipment that they need to work on. So then it becomes difficult in terms of finalizing a claim quickly and sufficiently, because we have to wait for those things to be finalized in terms of damage reports, the repair, or sometimes even if it's not repairable, the total loss statement from that authorized repairer or manufacturer. So it can be quite difficult sometimes locally. Right, so then in the UK, we've seen that due to their close proximity to various countries, the turnaround time in general for inspection and repair is a lot quicker than what we're seeing locally. And it's just because they have access to more repair facilities and manufacturers. So again, I touched base on it earlier in terms of the difficulty sometimes with telemetry and flight data. So we have some challenges with that from claims that we have seen. So we will require a flight log analysis from an authorized repairer or manufacturer when we cannot review the data ourselves. And that then becomes difficult due to the inaccessibility of the flight data. And then it also again leads to claims not being finalized as quickly as we would like, and we cannot report as quickly as we would like from our side due to us have to wait for that analysis from a repairer or a manufacturer. In terms of flight data that we can review ourselves, we try to do that as far as we can, but it's not always possible. And then again, sometimes the flight data is just not accurate, but again, it would be corrupted, or we cannot access it, the repairer cannot access it, the manufacturer cannot access it due to it being destroyed completely. And yeah, that's another struggle that we're seeing at the moment in terms of claims data. And then also high value payloads. So in a lot of claims that we are seeing, the most valuable item is the payload on that drone. And some of them are highly, highly expensive. But it's interesting because what we have noted that even though they are a insured item, that sometimes triples the insured value of the drone itself, they are more oftentimes than not actually repairable. And it's very, very rare in terms of the amount of claims that we are dealing with that those payloads are actually deemed total losses. So again, just the problem that we're having with the payloads is the payloads usually have to get sent to an authorized repairer or manufacturer for that specific analysis and inspection. And again, that can also, lead to longer time frames in terms of reporting then and claim finalization. Moving on to future risks. So the data that we have suggests that the future drone risk is evolving to more complex technological operation and regulatory exposures. So this means that insurers must adapt pricing, claims handling processes, and then coverage structures to account for the higher fleet numbers. As we've mentioned, we can see the increase in both the South African and local drone market. Expensive payloads, like we've mentioned, and what we've seen. Autonomous and hybrid human-machine operations. The supply chain and repair bottlenecks. And then the emerging advanced aircraft mobility, which is being tested worldwide. And I think we are going to see more of that coming into play in South Africa, in the UK. As mentioned, they're already doing testing there. So it's in the near future that we're going to see the advanced air mobility happening. All right. Thanks, everyone. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Laura. I think just to jump in there, can we have the questions? I think at the end of the session. I think more than anything, I'll just wrap up on my side, just the presentation, and then we'll take all questions at the end of the session. So without holding any more time, oh sorry, I thought I had you up. Just to finalize and come into the presentation over there. Please tell me if you can see my presentation. Perfect.
Yeah.
100%. Thanks a lot, Laura, for that. I think just to jump onto your last slides talking about future risks there. So in terms of future risks, I think Laura's last line speaks to us as underwriters in terms of what are we doing for future risks and in terms of seeing all this change which is currently happening. So as iTOO itself, we are seeing a higher fleet numbers which are increasing because clients are seeing the vast utilization of drones which they can adopt and enter into the market too. And there are adequate jobs and use case scenarios which they can use drones for. So the increase in time in their fleet is on the rise from that perspective. And expensive payloads, as Laura did mention, as iTOO, we do have a limit of up to 5 million to accept any expensive payloads, which clients may want to use. And for industries such as the surveying and mapping industries is where we're seeing these expensive payloads come through. And just to hone a little bit on the autonomous and hybrid human and machine operations, I think this is something which we are already seeing within our South African airspace, because we are seeing, I think there is a phenomenon which is taking the security space, which is a drone in a box. So we are seeing those autonomous autonomous hybrid human and machine operations where people are operating these drones from control rooms. So you can have someone operating a drone sitting in an office, probably here in Parktown, and I'm operating my drone. If I've got a site that I'm surveying or security back in East London or Cape Town, I can have that. We just need adequate internet connection thereof. Supply chain and repair bottlenecks. We do understand, obviously, the bottlenecks which we are facing from a repair perspective. However, we are working with repairers on the ground to have them accessible to our clients, so we make the claims turnaround much more efficient. Emerging air mobility corridors. This is a high topic which is happening, especially with the VTOL drones taking over the market. From an endurance perspective, these drones are used in surveilling, mapping. And as Laura did mention, some of the VTOLs which are coming in from passenger carrying drone. There is a passenger carrying drone which was launched at the aviation conference in Rwanda. It is something which is being looked at from a South Africa perspective. So all these futurists we are also looking at from an underwriting perspective to adopt and understand what we'd be writing for our clients. Okay. Sorry, my system is just a bit slow. Okay, so in terms of coverage, what iTOO, from this perspective, what cover options do I have for my clients as a broker? We've got 4 different types of covers we can tailor for our clients when offering drone insurance. So the first cover being the full comprehensive in-flight cover. This cover specifically covers for you whilst your drone is in operation. So whilst you're doing your job, doing a survey, doing mapping or doing any agricultural work, we are able to have a fully comprehensive cover for your in-flight risk. We also cover the drone in the air, as well as any payloads, additional payloads that you might have thereof, as well as attaching the liability to the policy. Second cover option is probably the client is operating on a different ROC, which is an unmanned aerial operating certificate. The liability is taken by the UAS OC operator. The client is able to take the asset cover only with us. The third cover option that we have available for our clients is third-party liability cover. So if a client feels that they want to self-insure the asset portion of the risk, we're happy to obviously tailor the cover and offer them liability cover. Please do note that if a client is operating commercially, third-party liability is a regulation requirement for the clients to have, because anything can happen and you need to note that you've mitigated the risk. So a third-party liability policy is able to be taken out as a standalone cover. The fourth cover option that we do have available for our clients is a ground, static, and transit cover. So this cover is highly susceptible to the clients. If a client they want the insurance coverage, but however they don't have the operational licenses to take up the full in-flight cover, we're able to cover the client on the ground in transit. So if they move from point A to point B, we're able to give them cover. This type of cover is not the same as an asset or risk cover, which just covers you from a static perspective. This cover moves around with the client. If the drone is in the back of the bakkie, we're able to cover the drones thereof. And then from an underwriting information, what do we require to underwrite a drone cover policy? So we do require a fully completed UAV proposal form. So UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle proposal form. That's another term used in the drone industry. We further do require a copy of the pilot's remote pilot certification. We also do require a copy of the UAV certificate of registration. So, like your car does need a registration number to account for its registration, the drone also has to have a Zulu Tango number, which is attached to the drone. It's on a yellow plate. So, all drones operating on the commercial airspace do need a certificate of registration. Furthermore, if you are operating from a corporate use, a business use, commercial use, as well as a non-profit organization, we do need a copy of the Unmanned Aerial System Operating Certificate. This is formerly known as an ROC certification. It is a requirement for you to be able to operate commercially from a business perspective, as well as corporate, non-profit organization. So that's the underwriting information that we do require. To take it a further step, what am I covered for what does iTOO cover in the UAV policy? Sorry about the spelling mistake there. It's supposed to be iTOO UAV policy cover. So our cover has got three sections to it. The section 1 cover covers you for physical loss or damage to a UAV, inclusive of the detachable and non-detachable payload. So anything that you detached to the drone would be covered under section 1 of our policy, which is in flight. So that moves around with your drone itself, which is the HAL. Section 2 of our policy covers you for physical loss or damage to the UAV payload or any spares. So section 2 mainly covers you for any additional batteries that you might have, any additional propellers, any RTK models, the measuring devices, any laptops that you might use adjacent in conjunction with your operation. They can be covered under this section. We further cover generators. If you're operating in the agricultural space at remote areas, you would need a generator, obviously, to power up your batteries in that operation. Section 2 covers you for any additional items on the ground. Immediately something is attached to the drone, it goes to Section 1 coverage. It is covered in operation and in the air. Right? And then Section 3 of our cover covers you for any legal liability to third parties. So any property damage, any bodily injury would be covered under Section 3 of the policy. Furthermore, we also extend the cover to cover you for any third-party war extension would be covered under Section 3. So, meaning, for instance, if you're a security company and there was a riot, you try and do crowd control measures, and someone stones down your drone or shoots it down. So, how war is the equivalent of the SASRIA, which is covered by the government on our side. So, within the aviation space, we have how war. So, this would be covered under Section 3 and Section 1 of the policy. If someone shoots down your drone lands on someone's property or someone's Ferrari or someone's head, the cover would be able to extend to cover that part of the risk itself. So that is simplified the I2 cover, what we simply do cover in our drone policy. I hope I was as clear. So from our side, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. If there's anything that you require assistance on, I'm happy to assist you on, or if there's any additional technicalities that people might have on this call, please do give me a call. My number is on the screen there. If your client is too technical for you, you need a certain understanding in terms of what is my client covered, please give me a call. I'm happy to clarify anything for you to make sure that your client is adequately covered in the airspace. Right? Thanks from our side. We're open to any questions and answers. Right, just on time. Joy, do we have any questions in the Q&A? Does anyone have any interesting questions? Oh, there are questions. So, Laura, let me read.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm in the Q&A section. I think, yeah. So the first question is, do you offer standalone liability cover? Yes, we do offer standalone liability cover for the drone, as mentioned in our 4 different type of cover options that we do have for our clients. Right? I hope I've answered you there. And then the second question is, does the insured have to have a service record for each drone in place? If yes, how often should it be serviced? Okay, do you want to answer that, Laura? Because I know you.
Sure. I'll gladly answer that. So in terms of the service records, yes, the insured definitely does have to keep a service record. It's also kept by a repair facility. It depends on the insured's capability in terms of maintenance and so forth. And it's quite a difficult answer and question in the sense of how often it should be serviced, because it is completely dependent on the drone manufacturer and the drone type, and then of course as well the insured's own maintenance operation manuals and that which they have provided to the SACAA for registration of them using their drones commercially.
Yes. Just to also add on to that last point, I think Laura does mention, so for instance, if you are operating commercially in South Africa and you've handed your service manual or your operator manual to the South African Civil Aviation, because that is one of the requirements for you to note that you do regularly maintain or service your drones. So it is a requirement, because sometimes some incidents happen because you haven't serviced your drone. So it also depends on your use case scenarios. What are you using and how often are you using your drone? So manufacturer does have specifications on how often you have to service or repair your, let's call it service, your drone thereof. All right. And then I hope we've answered you. And then there's another question from Anonymous. Are there any standards which these imports have to adhere to? Are these standards enforced? Right? And are we talking about the imports of drones? Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask the same question now as well.
Yes. So from an importing perspective, I think there are standards obviously for you to be importing drones into the country. One thing I do need to note that any drone that needs to be brought into the country needs to pass a certification with the South African Civil Aviation. I think just to also confirm, one of the imports we've just recently had, which was just recently approved, was the T100 drones. It was approved from a standard perspective, so you do need standard to enforce. There are standards to enforce all imports which come into the country. Then there's one other question. Okay, two more. I think please explain what high value payloads is or are. So, from a high value perspective, high value payloads, we regard any high value payloads as anything above 500,000. So, as mentioned on our side, we from an I2 perspective, we can write payloads internally up to 5 million on a standalone. So anything from 500 and upwards is regarded as high value per our underwriting guideline. Right?
Yeah. And then just in terms, sorry, just to add there, just in terms of what these high value payloads are, they're oftentimes cameras used for imaging, mapping, surveillance, LiDAR. So again, there are various types of payloads, and the value is obviously just dependent on what that payload or that camera can do in terms of obviously the operation and application of the insured as well.
Thank you, Laura. And then I think there's one more question from Wally. Are we aware at this time of any product recall events for drones? Touch wood on our side, Wally, we haven't had any, we're not aware of any incidents. I think this is mainly around, obviously, the regulation, the heavy regulations, which a prototype drone needs to go through before you can reach a mass production perspective. So there is rigorous process for you to follow before your drone can be approved for mass production. And so I think it is preventative measures which are taken by the local regulators themselves. So even before you can manufacture a drone, you need to go get your prototype, which is your test drone. You need to go send it for testing, and the CAA and the Bureau of Standards needs to give a thumbs up before you may be able to distribute your product to the market. So currently, as it stands, we haven't had any product recall events from a drone perspective.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Yeah, I think there isn't more questions. If there's anyone who wants to pop the mic off and want to ask a question directly, we're happy to answer. We have still got some time to have a chat and answer any questions. Or if someone wants to share for the panel and people on the call to understand about drone, please do come through. We're happy to engage. And also, we have the spirit of learning as I2, as an underwriter and as well as a loss adjuster. We're happy to be part of that conversation as well. All right. I think there's a new message now.
Kupana, if I could jump in here, then I'll quickly help you with a few questions coming through. So since we still have some time left here, I'm going to run from the top, and then the ones that you have addressed is fine, and we'll carry on from there. So we have one from Louis John Ferreira asking, can drones and their operators be held liable for inaccurate detail or gathered detail?
Accurate detail. Okay, I'm still trying to accurate detail. So does the question revolve around, probably you're a surveyor and you've done mapping or you've surveyed an area, and from that data bundle you give back to your clients. I'm just not sure how the question is pointed, but in that incident, from a drone perspective, so we must also remember drone is a data collection tool. So furthermore, whatever you do from the data that you collect from the drone, you as a service provider in the surveying industry would still require to have a professional and indemnity policy for all the advice that you'd be giving back or feedbacking to the client or whoever you're taking information for. So from a drone perspective, we just covering you for the physical asset and any liability which might happen in that instance. So from the data that you'd be collecting from your working environment, you still need to have, as a business, adequate cover from a PI perspective in order for all the errors and admissions that you might be held liable for.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kopano. And then we've got two questions here. I think the first one that I'll kick off with is from Jackie at DJA. So she's asking you, do you only offer insurance for private operated drones, or do you only offer cover for commercial drones? And with that question, we have another question that also links to that one, asking basically if a drone is used for personal use, what documents would be required in the event of a claim. So maybe if you just want to give us a rundown on personal use drones and commercial drones.
Okay, personal use drones. Currently, as it stands, Jackie, we are only offering our cover to commercial operators. But I must say, watch this space. There is something we are working around. And to further unpack that, from a private operation perspective, you do not need any licensing to operate, but you just need to be aware of the areas that you can operate from. And I think from a risk exposure, proper insurance clients need to have proper insurance for those private operations. But currently, from an iTOO perspective, we don't offer it, but I must say, watch the space.
Perfect. And then there's one asking here, is there anything on privacy or invasion of privacy? Do we offer any cover for that?
Yes. So from an iTOO perspective, in terms of our third-party liability cover extension, we do have an extension that covers you for any noise invasion as well as invasion of privacy, because that is a topic, especially within the security space. So from an iTOO perspective, we do offer you invasion of privacy cover. So if you are held liable, we will pay any fines and penalties which are held against you, and the defense cost thereof to defend you as one of our clients.
Fantastic. And then I think this one is a bit more focused on your side, Laura. Maybe you have some experience from this space, but we have a question here from Wally asking, are we aware at this time of any product recall events for drones? Have you heard of any of the drone manufacturers recalling certain components or drones?
We've already touched on that one.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
There is a question from Anonymous. So if a farmer has a DJI crop spraying drone and only use the drone for their own crops on their own farm, and the farmer has completed a DJI course and has no RPL, is it possible to obtain full comprehensive? Some farmers might be under the impression that this is possible and would just please provide clarity. So in terms of that, initially, it's farmers operating on their own farm without an RPL. It is an illegal operation. Firstly, based on the size of the drone. So from a South African perspective, if you're operating a drone less than 7 kilograms in the park, just for taking pictures for hobby purpose, that would be regarded as private use. Any drone above 7 kilograms, and furthermore, you're dispensing certain chemicals from that drone itself, you do need licensing from that perspective. You do need an RPL for that operator. The drone needs to be registered with the South African Civil Aviation. Furthermore, you also do need to operate under a registered ROC, because furthermore, that usage is regarded as it's either commercial if you are getting paid for it. However, if you use it on your own farm, you must remember you're enhancing your business process. So it is a business use case scenario, which does require the farmer to have licensing in place. The farmer further also needs a pest control operator certificate in order for them to be able to dispense all those chemicals from the drone itself. So there is some licensing which is required from that perspective as well. And then there is what documents would be required if the drone is used for personal use, okay, in the event of a close. So for now, we don't cover personal use drones, but however, we will share some notice in the next coming months in terms of that direction. What is the liability sum insured? So from a liability sum insured, regulatory or regulations requires clients to have a minimum liability of 2.5 million in place. However, that is also up for interpretation, but we are able to give cover internally up to 75 million. Based on obviously the operational environment that you come through. This is where we also require the brokers themselves to engage in terms of the risk exposure of operating that drone itself, because some people just want to be compliant and take out a 2.5 million coverage. However, I always pose a question in terms of where do you operate? Are you operating in an urban area close to buildings, close to people? Is 2.5 million enough for that? If you're a farmer or you operating on farmlands, is 2.5 million enough for you? Because you might crash into that power cable, you might also burn some hectares of land. So Eskom is going to be one of the claimants that's going to come after you and the farmer that you're spraying on. So is 2.5 million liability enough cover for me to have? That's when the broker's experience of risk mitigation and advising the clients accordingly comes to play. Okay, I think we've answered that.
Just on that, I see there is a question asking when, any idea on when chemical drift liability cover would be available?
Yes, okay. So for that question, we have got an extension which we've drafted up for chemical legal liability. So, for instance, for chemical legal liability, it covers you for the drifting element of it. Just to explain it a bit, if I'm spraying on Laura's farm and then Kopano's strawberries on the side, whilst Laura's farm gets sprayed and then a gust of wind just pushes over some of the droplets onto my strawberries. There is chemical legal liability drifting that we do have. Which should be available from the end of this month to our clients. And in terms of that cover, there is some understanding which our clients need to know that we do not cover you for the yield and any inefficacy. So, for instance, we cover you for the cost of putting that next door farmer in the same financial position they were when that incident occurred. So we do have that extension available. It is coming out at the end of November for our clients. Any more questions? Some of the questions are repeated.
Okay, here's one. Does the policy cover both owned and leased drones?
Yes. So yes, so from an insurable interest perspective, if you do have an insurable interest in term with the drones itself, yes, the cover does extend to cover you from that perspective. If an incident happens or there is a specific job that you need a specific drone for, and you rent a drone from Kopano's drone services, so whilst the drone is in your care, custody and control, you are able to add it onto your cover for us to be able to extend coverage for you whilst you are operating that drone. But you need to note that that drone also needs to be registered with a Zulu Tango tagline, as well as it needs to be registered under operation spec for that drone to be noted under our coverage. So we do extend to cover that.
And then also there's a question, drones delivering goods, do you offer goods in transit cover?
Drones offering goods. So we cover you for the operation.
So drones delivering goods. So
drones delivering
like
goods.
the Amazon delivery drones,
yes.
and that.
Yes. So in terms of that, yes, we would cover the drone in operation, and it's just we wouldn't cover the assets that are being delivered. Is what we wouldn't extend. However, the operation, we are able to tailor cover for our clients who would like to pursue any drone delivering service. I think we were covering one of South Africa's test case scenarios who were doing blood delivery services. So we've got some learnings from those scenarios. We are happily waiting for Amazon, who's currently doing test trials in Australia. Once they come in South Africa, we want to be able to offer that.
And then do you have mechanical damage cover for these drones?
So unfortunately, from an electrical and a mechanical damage perspective, we do not have cover for that. That lies in with your warranty policy. Yeah.
I think that's the last one I saw.
Yes. Lorenzo, any questions you've noted on your side?
I think we've covered all of them, Cops.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I think, thanks for everyone. I think we've still got heavy people on the call. Thanks for everyone that joined our iToosday. Hope it was as interesting and as knowledgeable. But I do say again, if you've got any inquiries you couldn't ask or you need clarity probably from one of the points that we did make, I'm happy to jump on a call with you. Please do give me a call or do send me an email. I'm happy to also tag along with you to your client meetings if you need some extra clarity and an extra nudge. I'm happy to assist any way possible. But from my side, thanks a lot. And I'd really like to thank Laura for coming through and doing that presentation from us. As iTOO, we do work with experts within the aviation environment. Thank you.
And thank you from your side as well. It's always a pleasure.
Definitely.
And thank you for everyone joining. And I hope we can talk more drones.
Definitely. We need to have more conversations on drones.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Well done, Laura. I think, we had run about good attendance for this one. Thanks for everything on the call.
Thank you. It was, and thank you for your side as well. It's always good to learn. I mean, I also still continuously learn from my side, so it was great.